Or are you doing Tucker Carlson? I'll change.
Carlson. I'm motherfucking Tucker Carlson. Virus. Get your ass up here. Vote blue no matter who. True. True. We love Kamala Harris, guys. We love Kamala Harris. No, we do, Bosco. We love Kamala Harris. I tell you what, when Biden said he wasn't going to run again, I almost cried. Almost shed a tear. Nothing better for this country than Joe Biden.
Chocolate chip.
Build back better. Very true, Mr. Mossad agent. Very true. Very, very true. We'll begin soon. Somewhat interesting. Hey, Prime, are you here, Prime?
Hello?
What's your
What's going
favorite
on?
cookie again?
Double chunk chocolate cookie!
That's the one. That's the one.
That's my favorite.
Very good. We have Jean Pierre in here. But you don't look like Jean Pierre. You look like
Frank Underwood.
Yeah, you look like Frank Underwood. That's a little interesting.
That's my face mask.
You're wearing your Hollywood face mask.
I'm a reptilian.
Gotcha. Yeah, how would you be voting this November, Jean Pierre?
We vote blue no matter who.
Vote blue no matter who. That's right, everybody. We are staunch Democrats in this community.
Can you do Kamala's laugh, please, for me, Virus?
You've been practicing it, Prime. Show the community.
Yes, Prime has been practicing it.
No, it's not ready. It's not ready. I can't. I can't spoil it.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get this. Is this the second debate we've done for this timeline, or the third?
Second,
It was
third?
the second.
The third.
Third? What was the first?
I'll have to look. I did the first one with Varix, and then I didn't do the second one. This will be the third one.
In this timeline?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So we've done 3 this year. This is the third. All right, well, let's get all the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor candidates onto the stage. You'll be getting moved up. There should be 6 of them in total, right?
Yes, ping me. Make sure you guys have your name set.
Lovely day.
It might do you candidates some good to set your name temporarily to your
Hello.
IC
there we
name,
go.
just so you can get some recognition on who
Well, I
they're
don't
voting
have
for.
permission, good sir. So
Well, then you can type your name in the chat, and we can do it for you.
the joke has arrived.
Are you calling a joke?
Myself.
Oh,
Fun times.
Nice.
I thought you were speaking like Class 1 Linda. My bad.
And
It goes you.
No, the only person I would say is a
Rube's
joke
name.
is
Rube, what's your
Mr.
name?
Weck. You know.
Huh?
Oh, you just changed it to Hellman.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're missing one person, I think, but are they not going to be here?
Auto
Uh,
girl.
let me go see if he's even alive.
Man,
Really sad. That's really sad.
I damned him earlier. I think he's just idly playing ICBM right now.
Yeah, he is.
Oh well.
Wow.
Poor guy.
Oh well.
Sat there having a great time.
This is lovely. I guess I'll be alone on this one.
Is
That's okay.
that you,
All right,
Walbert?
well, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome everybody to, I guess, the third debate for Chancellor for Imperial Germany. We have quite an interesting one this time, as Manfred von Göttingen announced himself after the closing of the candidacy slots were closed. So very, very interesting to see. But we will get started. Hound, you would like to begin with introductions to these people, or rather, let's go around and have each of the Chancellor candidates introduce yourselves, starting with the incumbent, Manfred von Göttingen. Don't make it this is not a campaign speech. This is just an introduction to a quick introduction to you.
Of course. So, hello, I am Manfred. Probably know me as George. I'm the incumbent. If I'm elected, this will be my third term. First time around, we took it with force. Second time, we won it with a vote. And the third time, I'm again wanting to win it by a vote. So, if you like me, then vote me. Thank you very much.
Well, there you go. Alex, aka Klaus von Lindau.
Hello. Yes, my char's name, Klaus von Lindau. Probably know me as Alex or Nicola, either one. This will be when we win. It'll be the first term. We'll do a lot of good stuff. A lot of great things will happen, and we will no longer be getting destroyed on many fronts. Vote, please. It's very important. It's very important.
Very important to vote. No matter who you're voting for, guys. Democracy is important. You got to make sure to vote. Pokemon, go to the polls. And then our final candidate is Sigil Hawkmut.
Yes. Hello. Most of you know me either by Fade or a name that hasn't been spoken of a while, Giannis Hawkmut. This is my first term running for Vice Chancellor, but my Chancellor isn't here, obviously, since he seems to have slightly given up. But besides that, I'm here to help for the people, be a man of the people.
A man
So-
of the people. Indeed. Very, very good. Very, very good. Round of applause for the lone Vice Chancellor. That is, he's here when his Chancellor is not, so that's fantastic. But glad somebody showed up. And then we have Albert Pennymug as the Vice Chancellor for Manfred Göttingen, or AKA George. Then we have, we have Groove or something Hellman.
Gerhard Hellman.
Gerhard Hellman
my first name real
for
quick.
Klaus von Lindau. And then Sigel Hockmuth is the Vice Chancellor for the current non-existent chancellor candidate that's not here. Wonderful to see. So we'll now move into some opening questions for the candidates that we have here. Hound, would you like to open us off?
Yes, sir. This one's for all candidates. A common perception held by many is that ministers typically only ever side with the most powerful member of national high command instead of standing up for their ministry and being interesting. Will you work to change this perception, or do you believe this perception is to your benefit? Elaborate. And we can start with
Start with the
Mr.
incumbent.
Göttingen.
Sure. So, I mean, inherently, 9 times out of 10 it's true, because the most powerful people either influence them by force or lobby for the votes, promise them things, give them power in certain regards. But I mean, what you said is true. 9 times out of 10, ministers will go to the most powerful people on the server. I think it's something that inherently happens when you've got ministers who want to progress their ministry. Specifically when it comes to getting favors from other ministers, specifically the most important people. So the Interior Minister, Minister of War, Vice Chancellor, and Chancellor, they can act on their behalf and do the things they want to do for a favor, an IOU, essentially. The way that I like to see it is it's not necessarily so much a bad thing. Ministers can stand up for their ministries if they want to. 9 times out of 10, again, a minister won't just take a beating for the ministry unless you see people like Reverend, who as Justice Minister took it down the drain. But again, it's up to the ministers mainly and the Vice Chancellor. And when there's a problem with a minister who's just not standing up for their ministry, that issue will be raised upwards to the Chancellor, and they'll step in as necessary as a team.
Interesting. Mr. Lindau?
Yeah, I think it's good that we're
Could
actually
we
starting on this
restate the
topic.
question so everyone's back on the same page?
Yes. A common perception held by many is that ministers typically only ever side with the most powerful member of national high command instead of standing up for their ministry and being interesting. Will you work to change this perception, or do you believe this perception is to your benefit? And elaborate.
Yeah, well, again, I think it's good we're starting on this topic of people selling out essentially to someone who's more powerful than them, or in a lot of cases who has more manpower, especially with this current incumbent, because I witnessed on many occasions that happen exactly, not even at the minister level, but at the level above that. So it's essentially this trickle down failure of in any autonomy, and it's really a problem. I think it stems from one, these people not being able to lead very well and teach new people how to be independent because they can't do it themselves, but also because I think the government as a faction with none of these manpower benefits needs to have people who are a little bit more confident. And we don't really have that right now. And that's kind of one of the main focuses that I want to kind of fix is, when you have a minister that's like Jimmy or something, who just kind of will go out and do whatever, he'll jihad everything because he thinks it's cool, right? That's nice because you have someone who should be in this powerful position acting, all pompous and whatever. That's what you should be doing in the government. You're these high level ministers. And I think it's to the benefit of everybody if this group that doesn't have all this manpower uses its political power in a way that's more beneficial kind of for everybody. If you have these little, fights that start as nothing, like Jimmy does when he cuts off people's, factories or whatever, I think that can lead to a lot more interesting stuff than, oh, I'm going to back down now that you've started me with 5 guards. And I think it's just a lot of fear that needs to be kind of trained out of these people. But there's no one who has really done that so far. And that's kind of what the whole mission of this campaign is about, is kind of raising people up who are newer. That's why we have Groove, who hasn't done any of this national high command work before on my ticket. And so we can kind of raise these people up, provide them a guiding hand in how to do that kind of stuff without, leaving no structure.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Well, on to the final candidate, Sigil. All right, that ticket is dead. So this is now a two-person race. So that's awesome. This is now a two-ticket race. Those two, unfortunately, didn't seem too interested in anything. So we'll go ahead and cross those two out of the election there. So we just heard a response on basically how they plan on defending the government and defending ministers, and they both just gave very different responses in how they believe that is going to be the best way to do it. We have a second question now, and it goes as follows. Our nation is constantly changing and evolving, and the citizens rarely, if ever, get the chance to see the policy decisions that take place behind closed doors. If you are elected, will you make an effort to be more transparent with the public? Why or why not? And we will start with Lindau.
Yeah, I mean, of course, from what I know, having come back, within the last 2.5 weeks or something, there was when the other candidate ran, he promised, no new taxes, just like, George Bush, no new taxes. And the first thing that happened was new taxes. We can't do that. That's ridiculous. Not only from, the perspective of some ordinary citizen who's now paying more, but also just in terms of kind of how these positions work, especially that of chancellor. If you just kind of go back and everything you say always, you have no credibility, the position becomes useless. You're forced to run around with your, 11 guys in suits to get anything done. And I think that's really a negative. I think that's really bad. I think it's not something that we should be striving for. And I think transparency, at least, even some level of facetious transparency, we're doing this for this reason, and then whatever is better than just saying, I'm going to do this and then not doing it, or, pancake policy, as I like to call it, has been a real hallmark of this administration. It's something I want to change. We're not doing any more pancake policy. It's bad. Making pancakes for everybody. It's bad for people you make deals with. It's bad for the people below them, etc., so on and so forth.
Wonderful, wonderful to hear. George, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, I'm going to offer a rebuttal to that. I'm really glad that you brought up transparency, and that Klaus has brought up the fact that I promised to not raise taxes, because we were quite honest and open that this was something that we had to do to fund the army properly, to build up our industry to a level that was satisfactory to fight a war on 2 fronts, soon to be 3 fronts probably. That's just something we had to do. Speaking about transparency, we were absolutely transparent in that. It was the intention of the government not to raise taxes. We made that absolutely clear. Unfortunately, it just wasn't possible not to. We hosted a press conference, actually. If you want to go look back, you can go and see the documents. It just shows that you've been away for a while and that you don't really know what happened. I mean, that's whatever.
I mean, that's not really true.
I mean, we were transparent.
It's okay, though.
What do you mean it's not true? No, what's not true?
No, it's not true. Listen, the entire campaign
what's
that you've
not true,
run
though?
here is always the make promises,
You're
break them
saying that
later,
we
and then say
didn't
we had to
go-
do it.
Well, yeah,
we had to
you
do
can
it.
go
No, we
look
have to
back.
raise the taxes
Yes,
now.
we
We need
did,
more
because
money, and now
France
we suddenly
declared
don't
war
need
on
money
us.
that you're
So
running
when
for
they invaded
re-election.
Rhineland and
It's
the
so
Ruhr,
funny.
so what do you expect me to do? What do you expect us to do?
I expect you to be honest. It's a
What?
basic
That we
element of
have no money
leadership.
in the skin? Great, that's fantastic. Let's just fold. Let them take Berlin.
No,
Oh,
no,
great.
no,
What
no,
a
no.
great
I
policy.
think it's better to
What
be
a great
honest from the
policy.
beginning. Hello, we're
We-
going to need to fund this
Did I
massive
know that
new
France
army
were
we're
just going to
making,
storm through
and
our
then
borders?
listen,
Did I know?
All right.
and then you lie to the
All
world and
right.
say we're not
All
going to
right.
raise taxes.
We'll
We
have
do it
more
immediately.
time for
France
argument
stormed
on
through
this
the borders?
exact
No.
topic in a little bit. We'll have more time for debate on this exact topic in just a little bit, as it is a topic of debate. I absolutely don't mind the interruptions, though. Keep those up. They're fun. Now I have a direct question. This was not on the docket. However, I just got done being Interior Minister, and not to hype myself up at all, but I don't think anybody will deny that I had pretty much everybody on a leash, whether it was the Interior Minister, the Chancellor. I mean, I don't think there was anybody who was really going up against me. So really, and that goes for, I mean, Hand of the King too. I mean, no one was trying to stop me from doing anything I wanted to do. What is it that you guys plan on doing to stop somebody from simply steamrolling everyone in front of them, or how you plan on interacting with that person? We'll start with Mr. Gottingen on that one.
Sure. So when you came in as Interior Minister, I was in quite a funny position because I tried to quite openly seize the Kaiserguard from Ickbin when he was Interior Minister. So I wasn't on the best terms with him. He'd obviously gone over to the military, and we were in a funny sort of state where he wasn't happy with me. I wasn't on the best terms with him. So I had to look for an ally. And in your character, I found an ally. Don't get me wrong, you completely dominated and took advantage of a lot of things. But you were someone that, and I think you said this before in your own terms, you wanted, most part, serve as the terror police for the state. You wanted to enforce our will like a rabid dog. So in you, I found an ally, and in Ickbin, we were quite obviously having a feud. To ensure that this doesn't happen again, in my case, I'm quite fortunate that I'm in the position now where I don't have too many ties to anybody in any department, Ministry of War or Interior. So it's quite a new administration in both, besides the NSB chief and the field marshal. Again, relatively new command staff. So I don't have any ties tying me down like I did previously because it's been long enough with Ickbin.
That's time.
Yeah.
That's time. Mr. von Lindau.
Yeah, again, I think this is a great topic to discuss. The thing is, you have people like the incumbent who, not only for the interior minister, when you were leading it, it was for the military too. I remember he was barking in that office. He was barking in the office with his guards. He threw him under the bus, and then he was barking for the field marshal. We have things like that go on. It's just about who's more powerful in the room. And I think the problem is with that kind of leadership, you're never going to have any sort of, not even balance per se, but any sort of interest if you're just I'm always going to side with this guy because always he's, one, I don't want to kick, I don't want to kick that Rattenreich. I'm just going to side with the interior forever now.
Ickbin never came
like
to
that's
make a deal.
it's
So
okay.
I mean,
I'm
that
gonna
is what it
finish what I'm
is.
saying. I'm gonna finish what I'm saying,
But
and
you
then
can
you
finish what you're saying. But
okay,
if you're
no,
no.
You've
If
had a
you're going to say
long-winded
something,
answer.
well, let me.
I'm gonna talk
No,
now.
I mean,
Thank you.
Well, that's fine.
I'm
You
gonna
can
finish
talk,
my
but I'm
answer, and
saying
then
you
you
never
can
came
get
to
back
me
to what
to
you
make
were
a deal.
saying with your, scripted written down. I don't know. Maybe you got the questions beforehand. These are very
No, I
scripted
didn't get the
answers.
questions beforehand. That's
It's okay
hilarious
though.
that you would go any
But here's
further.
what's important to
It's
note.
absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, okay, that's what I think too. What's important to note is that interacting with people like that sort of have this monopolistic desire or whatever. It's important to kind of begin the alliances against that, especially if you're in this middle of the ground position, where if it's too powerful on the the military side or the interior side, the government always gets toppled. They always get screwed over. It's always has to be another, third column that relies on one or the other's manpower when it becomes a policy problem. And this guy didn't do that. He always sided with the
All right.
interior forever. It was very sad.
Thank you. It's time. That's time. All right. Well, to take a break from some of our written questions that we have here that myself, Hound, and Virus have presented, we have decided to open up. There'll be two segments of this. We'll do two different segments of audience questions to break up the debate a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the debate stage up for requests, and you guys can begin putting those up. We'll begin. Jimmy, looks like Jimmy was first. Jimmy, you're going to be coming on up. Our glorious friend Jimmy.
Love him. Great guy.
Welcome,
Yellow.
Jimmy.
All right, it's going to be a simple question that probably neither of you are going to be able to answer. So, what are both of you going to do? to make Berlin interesting?
All right, we'll
Easy.
start with Mr. von Lindau. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, again, this ties back to what I just said before. It's about making the government that third column of political power that you need in order to do things. If you want to legitimize what you're doing, either of these manpower factions, inevitably what you have to do has to come back to either something grounded in statute or grounded in, the government's approval. Otherwise, what you're doing is treason. Right? So the entire idea of a government should be to stay kind of, depending on the situation, kind of in the middle, perpetuating these different things or letting, the other two factions go at it and then stepping in the middle and saying, whatever, you can't do that, you can do this, whatever, and then making the deals and, being the chief diplomat on those kind of things. That's kind of how you let things become interesting and let things devolve to a point where you can step in without it getting too chaotic. And I think that makes things interesting. The everyday civil wars aren't fun,
The
but
office
neither is,
dweller.
sitting in your
Great
offices
idea.
5 hours a day. It's really not fun. So I think
Didn't you
it just
give
comes
that
down
idea?
to kind of.
If you just sit
Sorry,
in
is
an
someone trying to
office all
talk
day
right now?
doing nothing?
Is someone trying to interrupt me? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
finish
me.
I'm gonna finish what I'm saying, and then you can talk.
Just the point you're making.
It's okay. No, it's okay.
You're
I'm
You
saying
just
got,
gonna
a, you
finish
got
what
a
I'm
few
saying.
seconds. You got a few seconds.
Yeah, thank you. It's just about, maintaining that kind of legal political power middle ground and then using those other two factions against each other essentially to create kind of a conflict and interest and then using your ministers to do this.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. von Gottingen, you have 1 minute to respond.
Sure. So, as you've seen, Jimmy, there's a new NHC in almost every position besides the state and the military. This is something that's going to be really beneficial for the server itself. The problem that we've had for quite a while now is that the party has gone through 3 leaders fairly quickly, and each their own. Besides Brownie Meister, they didn't really do much. Brownie Meister did 1 or 2 documents which were quite consequential, but again, still not too much on the party's part. And that's fine, that's whatever. But the state and the party is supposed to be fighting. That's normal. Everybody expects that. In terms of the MOI and the Ministry of War, that's also something that's been lacking for quite a while. When it was, I think it was Noah Wolf, he passed away and then Ringel came in. He was a bit scared to fight Igbin. Igbin was going, I think, a little bit easy on him because he was preparing to do what he did and jump ship. We're in a position now where we have a completely new set of NHC, so it's going to be about forging relationships with them individually, and then working from there. I've already announced with my plans quite a few new laws, business initiatives, so there's a lot that we're planning to do, and anybody who wants to see that can look in election adverts for a more in-depth analysis.
Wonderful, wonderful. Jimmy, thank you so much for your question. All right, the next question needs to be from somebody who wants to ask a question of the vice chancellors. The vice chancellors are also president of the cabinet, so they're the guy running the day-to-day government, running the cabinet, and handling all of that stuff. Lawson would like to ask questions of vice chancellors. Very good.
Hey, how's everyone doing? So the question I have for both vice chancellors is: we have noticed a steady slowing down in participation within the cabinet. How are you going to ensure that ministers without portfolio and even ministers with portfolio are showing up when they're supposed to for cabinet meetings?
Sure. So starting with the cabinet, yes, there are times, and there has been times where there's either a lack of people or a lack of participation. A lot of that is already being worked on. I'm currently in office and working on it. You can ask the Minister of State. You can ask Fort Muller if he's around. Getting these people interacting. I mean, there was a big interaction with the Minister of Farmers and Jimmy, and we're trying to sit them down and basically getting them to do more on their own and without having the handheld. Because what they're doing right now is they're interesting and they're doing stuff, but not to the level of where it's affecting everybody, right? A fight in an office isn't of what I expect anyway. I want them going out, politicking, doing what they should be doing.
Wonderful. Gerhard Hellman, you have 1 minute.
I think the main thing that I would like to see from the cabinet is actually utilizing a lot of the procedures that we got from the Reichstag whenever it was dissolved and moved into our authority. Say the committees, actually setting up committees and letting them do things like that. And maybe letting them somewhat run on their own with obvious oversight from the chairman of the Federal Council, right? Another thing that I would want to do is I think something that Mr. Weck actually suggested to me, which I think is a really good idea, starting to make the ministers actually make their new portfolios, right? Reestablish them, put them in a big codex, actually, have them enforce things, fight over it. Because what we see right now is just kind of what minister's going to side with the military, what minister's going to side with the interior. You don't really see them doing anything on their own, right? I think having a bunch of ministers, say like the agriculture minister and the science minister, fight over some policy that they want to do. Like something like how Jimmy and Moody kind of fought over some labor policy. I think that would be
You've got
good.
10 seconds.
But I think just having more fights with the actual ministers and not just having like the two big factions just, go at it. It would be very beneficial.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Lawson, for your wonderful
course.
and insightful question. All right, next we're going to have Courier Ryan. Courier Ryan, hello. You may ask whatever question it is you wish of any of the candidates. Courier Ryan, are you coming up, man? You requested to speak, and now you're not coming up. What a shame.
He's a loser.
He's a loser. He's a loser. Goodbye, Mr. Ryan. All right, Bosco, a staff member. Oh, this is going to be great. First question, Bosco. Do you support Madam President Harris?
President Harris, gotta vote for her, man. Such a great candidate.
Your mic sounds really good.
Wow.
I like this guy.
Yeah, my
Bravo
microphone's a little
Bravo
fucked up. I dropped it in a tub of water.
You in a fallout bunker?
Wow. Okay, well, let's hear your question.
So what are y'all going to push for in the departments? What are y'all going to push to change, and what do y'all want to see happen?
So I think what he's saying is, what are the changes you'd like to see, in faction-wide, basically? We'll start with Mr. Gottingen.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the military and MOI go at each other a bit more. I'd like to see the party try and attack the state a bit, because we've been in a situation, especially with the party, where we've just kind of been pushing them, and there's only so much pushing you can do. It's at the point now where they really need to start fighting back in any way that they can, politically, physically, and they just haven't with the government. So that is what it is with the party. But in terms of the Ministry of War and MOI, I'm really, really hoping that they're going to start to clash now, because we've been missing big scale clashing a lot. And I think everybody has made that known and apparent, because they've been saying it's been boring. So that's the biggest things with those three. And with the state, it's the continuation of stability. We've got quite a stable government at the moment, and myself and Mr. Pennymug are hoping that we can continue on that path.
Wonderful. Mr. Von Lindau.
Yeah, faction-wide changes need to begin in the government. I think the government maintains kind of the semblance of the lawful authority, and so what really needs to change to make everything else that he just said in that scripted answer possible is that the government needs to operate. It's okay. I'm going to talk now.
Your head loss is amazing. It's fantastic.
It's
scripted.
Sure. What's important to do, though, is to, number one, become that third column instead of just, tied to the leash of Baron Harkonnen. I think that's not great for everybody, especially when you have kind of the Chancellor as not really, just the head of the government, but kind of the highest ranking faction leader out of the rest of them, similar to, like, I don't know, Reichsmarshal, when it's not tied to the Ministry of War or whatever. And so to promote kind of the idea of making everybody do everything and to do all this change, one of the things we need to change, though, is also our focus on things that we can't see inside of the city. We have this entire war effort, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. We're trying to rebuild this Holy Roman Empire. Nobody cares. Everybody just cares about, who they get to PK the next day or whatever, what gunfight they get to initiate.
That's not true. That isn't true whatsoever.
I'm going to keep my answer going now. Thank you.
Well,
You
you're
had
just
your
chatting
chance.
shit.
You
to be
No,
honest
you had
here.
your turn. You had your
I
turn.
mean, you've just come. So
And
you've taken
we
2
have,
weeks.
by the way,
You've
and,
been back
this
for
is
2
actually a
weeks, and
good
you can
point.
keep
Good,
up your.
good on you trying to interject here, actually. We
I'm not
have the
interjecting,
incumbents
but you're
who
just
had
lying.
spent, this is going to be their
I mean,
third
okay,
term
you
if
know,
they win. Their
You're just
third
lying.
term if
You're
they win.
blatantly lying.
And you know what? They're talking about all this change they want to do. They could have done it. They chose not to do it. Why didn't they
Okay,
do
Well,
it
yeah,
then?
let's talk about the things that you could have
Because
done
it
as
was
interim
painful
minister. You sat there with the most
trying to do
boring
every
term
single
of any
time
interim minister
anybody
whatsoever.
asks them
Right?
anything.
Let's bring up your old terms because
It's
you've
always
never
the
done
same.
anything.
It's always
You've
the
not done
same.
anything.
Let's bring up
It's always
Your
the
old
same.
interim minister
Let's bring
term was
up
the
I'm
most
going to do all
boring
these different
term
changes. I'm going to do all these different policies.
ever.
I've
It was
I took it by
snooze
force
fest. It was
once.
an
I
absolute
won an election
snooze
once.
fest.
I didn't do any change. I said I was going to do, but now suddenly I'm going to do all
Well,
this
we did
change.
do changes.
Now I'm
Don't
going
you
to protect
worry.
you from the big
Don't
bad,
you worry. We did do
opposition.
changes.
It's
All
ridiculous.
right, all
We did
right,
do
all
changes.
right.
So I don't know what you're saying.
All right.
So I couldn't really
all
do
right.
that part. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, all good, all good. Well, that was wonderful to hear. Thank you, Bosco, for your very insightful question. Um, well, that was nice. That was wonderful. Audience questions. You still want to ask a question? You can still request. But we're gonna move on. We'll come back to more audience questions later. But we're going to go ahead and try to blitz through this. Only take about another 20-30 minutes of everyone's time, and then we'll be done. Next question is going to be for Mr. Von Gottingen directly. Virus, I believe you wanted to present this one yourself. Virus?
I was getting the
Might be
proof
most.
for everyone here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gottingen,
Yes.
I have a
yes.
screenshot here of your promises made months ago when you ran for chancellor.
Sure.
The last time you promised not
Yeah.
to raise taxes, but they
Yes.
doubled with an additional 5%. You have taxes at around 30 to 32% now after tripling people's money. And
Okay,
from
it's
the complaints
24.
given by the military, where's this money going?
So the
Why did
money
you lie?
is. So it's not so much a lie. The promise was an ideal. It was an ideal situation, right?
Ooh, the proof in chat,
fuck?
by the way, for everybody.
What?
The
Yeah,
proof
you
in
can see the
chat.
proof. You can see the proof. We didn't want these cuts, these rises to occur. Unfortunately, because France invaded the Rhineland of the Ruhr, we had to. We had no other choice. We have all the receipts within the Federal Council. We have every single allocation of funding listed with all the funds present. So if anyone wants to scrutinise that, I'm more than happy to provide at any point in time. But it was out of necessity. We had to make those changes out of necessity because a massive army started storming through the Rhineland of the Ruhr, and we simply didn't have
I'm afraid
a large
to
enough
correct
military
you
to
here,
handle it.
but you did this before France stepped foot into Germany.
Well, that was because not enough progress was being made on the front lines.
There we
obviously.
go. Yeah, we go.
He's confused.
I mean, it was something to do with the war.
Change the goalposts.
No, I mean you can say that, but it's whatever.
That's what you're doing. You're
The
just
war
pushing
effort.
it back and back
That's
and
what you
back.
just said,
Anyway,
though.
we
That's
need
what you
her.
just said. You just said it was because of
Where's
the
the press
Now it's because of the
secretary?
French, because there's enough stuff on the
More of an
front.
understanding. I think I can answer. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to get saved now. Please,
Yeah,
let your lifeline in.
No. I mean,
I let you speak. I let you speak, right? So, with the taxes, yes, we promised, or especially George promised not to raise them, but they were raised. That was before we went into Yugoslavia, now conquering it. We are now pushing into France and Austria, the Czechs, right, with them and the Russians, right? If we want to fund this war, and Lindau says, "Oh, we don't care about it," we have allocated millions and millions in the federal council to.
And when you build your casinos with it, yeah.
And this is where the taxes are going.
Let's wrap it
we
up.
don't own any casino.
All right. So, wow, what a interesting question from our very own community manager Virus. Wow, what a question indeed. For the next question, we have a directed question at Attorney General Lindau. As you might know, he's not only Hand of the King, he is also Attorney General. In your campaign, you make mention of criminal elements within our borders and how the government has failed to remove them. You hold the position of lead prosecutor as Attorney General for the nation. Many would argue that the responsibility of removing these elements falls on your shoulders before anyone else's. How have you addressed these issues in your current role, and how do you plan to address them as Chancellor?
This is a good question, actually. Number one, we made the bar for entry to prosecute crimes lower so that people can come and get trained in how to prosecute crimes in the various different factions if they see it. We've set up the infrastructure to essentially combat criminal elements by making sure that number one, all the factions, if they need to, they can come to us, come to my office directly. If they need people prosecuted, they come and, they contact. Right. But at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is policy decisions that I can't control. I'll prosecute whoever. I did it against the ISB. I would do it against, whoever is on trial or whatever agency wants to bring charges against somebody. Right now, we're looking into this corrupt situation in the government with their money. We have a special prosecutor on that. He's a great guy. And we're looking into that right now. Whenever we see elements of crime, we do combat them. We come after them. Right. We need to be alerted to those things. And that's part of the reason that I want to win this is because I want to essentially set up the infrastructure that our people don't have to be afraid to come to us with stuff. You have a guy who restricted everybody's rights randomly, arbitrarily, similar to the communists, actually, a very socialist move of him.
Wow.
And what we need to do is not have things like that. Those are bad. But what we need to do is set up the infrastructure with the Truth Ministry and with whatever to get everybody on the same page that
15
combating these things is essential to maintaining the integrity of both our country, but also to maintain kind of our society.
Yeah, well, you don't have much integrity, so you're not going to do
Yeah,
very well in that role.
that's rich coming from you.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Goldknop.
very rich. Yeah, great.
Thanks a lot for that. That was a good interjection.
I mean,
I'm glad you saved that. Would you
yeah,
practice
great.
that one in the mirror?
All right,
You what?
Mr. Goddigan, you can have 20 seconds to make a quick rebuttal.
Sure. I mean, he's just full of shit. Pure and simple. He preaches this, that about law and order. He's taken on one case during his entire tenure. Fantastic, great, amazing. All he's focused on
It's a lie.
is the Emperor Small Council. It's not a lie. You can check the facts.
That's a lie.
All you're focused on is the Emperor Small Council. You want the
Has he
Emperor
done
this, the
anything with
Emperor
the
that,
Small
the Emperor this,
Council?
the Emperor that. You won't do anything for the government. No, he hasn't. You won't do anything for the government. You sit there, you preach this, that, and the other, and you're just a puppet for the Emperor.
right,
You're his
all
man
right.
to run his government.
Thank you. The next question actually has to do directly with the Emperor, His Illustrious Majesty, Hendrik Balmer. How does your as I play Hendrik Balmer, sometimes I play him eccentric, sometimes I play him very seriously, sometimes I play very not serious and give orders that might not make the most sense, intentionally to just mess with people and try to make you have to work around a crazy person's demands. How does your government, now that I'm no longer Interior Minister, how does your government plan on interacting with me as I continue to make ever increasing and possibly even more demanding requests of the government as the war of the world ramps up? We'll start with the hand of the king, Klaus von Lindau.
Well, I'll tell you, I won't start bombing the Pantheon unlike the other guy. I think it's important to
No, you wouldn't have gold
understand
to.
that it's thank you for that. That
You're welcome.
being an empire, we do need an emperor. We need someone who, the emperor in the German idea of an empire is someone who is always involved, or someone who at least hasn't ever, is ever present. Into the current administration, they, led a coup pretty much to undo all of that, to make it like England. He wants an English government. It's not really working out so well. And it's also just not at all what we are. It's not at all what we are. And so, despite the ever demanding nature of the, various personalities of the emperor, it's important to, at that point, either people temper and kind of make sure that, these things can be done in a way, or to be a little bit less direct in how those things are accomplished. I think having an obstacle to work around isn't a bad thing at all. I think in a lot of cases it improves the long-term efficiency of something if you can work around, a temporary setback like, a random demand or something. I think it's not bad at all. I think especially as my government tries to train people to kind of do this thing, in the longer term that isn't, a 1 week, 1 week whatever. Things like that aren't bad at all. And I think having government respond to them as they continue.
Alrighty, thank you.
Is good.
Thank you. Mr. Von Göttingen, your time to respond.
I mean, we've already made our stance on the Emperor quite clear. So the idea that we're going with is that the government should be independent. Obviously, it serves the Emperor. It's in his country. The Emperor is supreme by all means, but we will do, obviously when goals are given to us, we'll try to meet them as best we can. But we're not going to appease him completely like Mr. von Lindau is. We've made this abundantly clear at every point during this tenure with the bombing of the Pantheon and everything. It's not something that we're interested in doing.
Well, there you have it. Interesting. Very polar opposites on this matter. So, take that as you will. I believe Virus has a directed question for the current incumbent Vice Chancellor, Albert Pennymug.
Yes, yes. Military, forgive me for this league I'm about to put in chat. But Pennymug, you said that you are pouring millions of dollars into the war, from these taxes for a war that started, I think, 7 months ago, and
Yeah.
yet now we are at the point where not a single German troop is in Italy. I'll post the first publicly leaked image of the front line because I know a lot of people have not seen it, so I'll put that in chat. But there's not a single German troop in Italy in the Italian war.
We're still waiting.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. Okay. Well, I can't speak for the war planners, but I can speak for the Federal Council and the 40 million that we've synced into now expanding. I mean, it's all in election adverts. Expanding the IEU to now 6 countries, spending over 60 million in total. Pushing all of this stuff of we are doing our part. We're giving them the money. We're getting the funding, right? Not just 2 days ago, myself and the Chancellor gave, I think, over 300,000 to the war planners so they can pay for operations. So we're giving our own money. We're giving the government's money to the VSK. Now, what, 300,000 men? The military expanding even more as well. We've done our part, but I can't speak for the war planners.
Well, there you have it. Now I have a directed question for the opposing Vice Chancellor candidate, Gerhard Hellman. I know you, I know Groove, I know many of us know Groove. However, I don't think many of us know of your achievements, if you have any. So if you could take just a short time to even say what qualifications you have to take this role or to ascend to this position, or what even gives you an idea of what you're going to have to do, just please tell us what your qualifications are for this role.
Being thrown out as Truth Minister.
I wasn't thrown out. I was never thrown out. I'm going to first start out with my role as foreign minister. This is before the new war planning system was even in place, and I rearmed Hungary. Me and Zephyr Tempest were the people that rearmed Hungary. We got them into our alliance in the first place. We set those crowns up. And people critique my truth ministry quite a bit for apparently doing nothing, being a failed truth minister, even though a lot of what I had in place actually isn't still in being used. A lot of my documents, a lot of my procedures, a lot of everything that I set up is still being used by the current truth minister. And with party courts, I actually established it within the city. I have people in it. That's it's a little better than the last 10, or how many have even held the role. I set up a actual formation of it. There's an actual organization as well. So I can't really tell you much what I've done in game recently because I've been out of the game, a few days. But I've done quite a bit on this character already, but it's mainly behind closed doors is mainly what I've done. And with the
So what you're
federal
telling me is you
council-
don't have any actual
Oh no, I do have
accomplishments to give to the people.
I don't have as big and flashy accomplishments as Mr. Pennybug, but I feel like I can have those very easily.
So you
Okay,
just
what we do?
no, that's an answer. That's an answer right there. Very good. So he is a cloak and dagger diplomat doing deals behind closed doors and getting things done, like arming Hungary. That is his his answer. Well, we would like to move on to the next question, and this is a almost wrapping up question for the general debate here. We'll have a few more audience questions after this, but as they would ask of the president of the United States during, their election, their campaign, what are your first 100 days going to look like? Obviously, most people don't make it 100 days in any job in this type of, thing. So we'll condense it down to what are your first 2 weeks going to look like? What are the first 2 weeks of your term going to look like, and how are you going to be different, be interesting, ramp up excitement for people to have fun in their time here? At the end of the day, this is a game, and at the end of the day, the point is to have fun. And there's multiple ways to have that fun. So, what are your first 2 weeks going to look like? We'll start with the incumbent, Mr. Gottingen.
Sure. So we've released a manifesto, myself and Sis. We've got a number of laws in there that we want passed, a little grant scheme for some small businesses because they've been propping up quite a lot. But the main policy is win the war. To do that, we need to properly fund them. We've obviously got a budgetary hearing coming up very soon. I think we're going to leave that until after the election so that it's fair, so that the new people can come in and decide how to fund as necessary. But in general, the first couple of days are going to be lobbying with the new Ministry of the Interior, with the Minister of War, his generals, the ministers in the council to discuss how we want to move forward. That's the main priority for us. After that, it's getting them on side to pass the laws that we want to pass, which include the law for the prevention of corruption within the Capital Act. That is something that will limit foreign lobbying, limit term limits officially for elected officials, and the other law, which is the All German Tax Relief Act, which will finally lower tax by 2% every month. So we've got quite a busy week or two ahead of us if we're elected.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. von Lindau.
Well, I mean, obviously, we'll have a great inauguration when we win. We'll do that the first day. The second day, maybe later that day even, but will be the time to assess kind of all the policies of the current government and get rid of the ones that have failed. Namely, and this is a controversial opinion, but I think it's an important one. This entire idea that we need to start restricting everybody's rights in order to win, it's not true. You don't need to do it. We're an empire that is a society that's very much ingrained in the success of the empire. And it doesn't take away the ability of other factions from doing stuff, namely the interior, right? Giving them more policy benefits from doing things in the war, progressing kind of the idea of taking the Holy Roman Empire will give them more things to do than just saying, you can't say these words anymore or you get arrested. I think that becomes monotonous after a while, and I think it's not that interesting. It's also just communist. It's a socialist policy. We don't do that anymore. Or ever, actually. We don't do that ever. Not since those Spartacists. But after that, it's
You
about
know a
kind of
lot about
setting
them.
up the infrastructure. Thank you. The infrastructure
You're welcome.
with the military people. Not just the whatever the war authority now, but also with the VSK, the Interior Readiness Troops, making sure that those are both expanding and growing. I have to go figure out this financial issue that they caused when they raised the taxes. Figure out how
There
to
is no
alleviate that for
financial.
everybody. It's not just as easy as saying, we're all going to vote yes on this now, and now it's suddenly all of our economic problems have vanished. That's not a reality. And suddenly, we need a bigger army, but now we can cut the taxes. It's just one of those campaign lies that they tell you. Regardless, those are minor details. The first few days are going to be in this administration setting up the
It's going to
infrastructure
be
to make
appointing
sure
your
that we can take the
friends,
Holy Roman
getting in your
Empire
friend
and
group like
reclaim
you
all of
always
that
do, like you did with
territory. Is he
Rhodesia. He sat as
talk right now?
NSB
I
chief
can't
for
tell.
months.
You might have
It's
get a little
fantastic.
bit get
What
the
you're going to
energy
do
up. Get
your
the
first
energy up
few
a little
days,
bit.
your first
It's
few
okay.
days, get your friends
It's
in,
okay.
set them all up, and let them
It's
sit
okay.
around and do nothing. And that is all you're going to
Thank
do,
you.
like you do every other time. You sit
Thank
there,
you
you don't
so
really do
much.
much. Get your friends in, and they
Is
sit
he still
around and do
talking? I'm going
fuck
to finish
all.
my answer
I am,
now.
yes.
I'm just going to
Well, I
talk
mean,
over him.
you've
If
not
you
answered
want to,
that,
you
have
can
you?
lower
Are you
his
going to deny it,
volume
or are you
actually
just going to accept
client
that it's the
side.
truth?
And you want
Because
to
it is the
listen to him
truth.
talk over me anymore.
No, listen. We're just propagating the truth.
More importantly, right,
That is
setting up
what
the
your first
infrastructure
days
with
are
the
going to be.
military for their growth, in both the VSK and in the military itself to kind of take the whole Roman Empire and figuring out the financial issues that are caused by that, figuring a way to fix those without having to increase the taxes on everybody right after I say I won't do it. That's the difference in our style
The
of
difference
leadership.
is that we don't appoint people because they're our
well.
friends. We do it based on merit. That's the difference.
Well. We're gonna do some audience questions, and then I'll have one more question for everyone at the end, and then that will be that. So let's get this wrapped up. It's been an interesting one thus far. We'll start with Callaway here. Mind you, Callaway seemingly has definitely made his opinion on who should win the election known.
Lindau for Germany. Thank you.
In the chat, for full disclosure. But Callaway, is there a question you have for either or both of the candidates?
Yes, I do. And frankly, this election is the election that will decide the future for Germany for years to come, ladies and gentlemen, okay? This election cannot be stolen by Göttingen the liar, Göttingen the absolute fraud.
Great question.
I will ask my question, Mr. Göttingen. Thank you for
taking your sweet
interrupting
time.
an audience.
Let's ask a question. Let's ask a question.
Okay. I have one question, okay? What will we do about boringness? Okay. Every day it's boring. Every day
How
it's
did your
the
Field Marshal
same.
time go?
Okay.
Yeah, you
It's
didn't really do
not
much
about
Field
me.
Marshal.
It's not
You
about
died
me.
in an
Don't put
I
this
was
on me. It's about
asking.
you,
Well, you're
gentlemen.
spinning
It's
this on
about
us.
you.
I mean, this
Your
is
Field
fantastic. We can
Marshal
ask
It's
it.
about you, gentlemen.
So,
Don't insult.
I'll take
No,
this
look,
It's not
question.
about
Up
me,
to
gentlemen.
Brownie
I mean,
Meister, up
so-
to
It's okay.
Brownie
I'll
Meister.
take this question. I think it's an
right?
important one.
You've asked about the boringness. There's a whole set of new NHC in, right? Brownie Master's just
A
come
whole
from
set, and
Glasgow.
what has happened under them?
Yes.
You sucked up.
The whole
You
set has
sucked
just
up to
come in
Mr.
today.
Harkonnen.
Ruling right now,
Nothing
please.
The whole
happened.
set has just come in today. Are you going to
Callaway,
let me
Lindau
finish?
will
not a
win.
debate.
Over me.
It's not a debate for you, Cal. You asked a
I'm
question.
very sorry. I'm
Let
very
him
So
sorry.
answer.
there's a huge set, two of the most important ones, the party and the MOI. These two people have come in. Naturally, and people have been saying this, I'm not going to fully agree with what they were saying, but the military was quite scared to attack Horson's MOI at some times, but rightly so, because they would have got ruffle stomped.
I think the
in
phrase "wait
circumstances.
for Horson to resign" was said a few times.
Yeah, but this isn't something
Yes,
that I
so
can
you say so,
outright
yes?
stop instantly. Well, yeah. I mean, that was the case. People were too scared to attack him. I made my bed with him very early on, and I allied with him. Right, that is what it is. I'm not going to deny that I made an alliance with him. I worked with him on almost everything because he made deals with me. Unfortunately, no other faction did. So that's your answer. There's a whole new set of NHC and new people to work with. There's going to be stuff going on. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's fairly common sense. The answer.
So you're boring. Okay. Thank you.
No, I'm not
Okay.
boring. You can
All right.
look at everything.
Now to the real
Combative audience members going back into the audience. I'll tell you that. Mr. Lindau, you can have 20 seconds to respond.
Yeah, it's really just about making people self-sufficient, right? Whenever issues happen and things are fun, it's because the faction heads themselves have to get on and go and force things to happen. I think that's not good. I think what this administration is going to do is attempt to train these people who are in various factions doing whatever, and with the working with the leaders of the other factions to make them self-sufficient so they can do things on their own, to make things not boring when you don't have 20 generals on. Because we don't have that really right now. And I think we do need that to make things less boring. Otherwise, everyone's just in their offices all day. It's very bad. It's very slow. It's not fun.
And where have you been? I'm still so confused. Where have you been for the past?
Are you answering a
2
question or are you
weeks?
just talking? I'm sorry.
I
I'm
was just
asking-
asking
I'm
you a
asking you a
question.
question.
I'm sorry,
I
what was
was
that?
sorting for your answer.
Answer the question. Where have you been?
Oh,
What have
I've
you
been
done?
around. If people need
You've
me,
been
I'm
around?
around. I'm around
You've
right
been
now.
around?
They said this is happening at this time. I'm here. If people need me for something, I'm there.
I
And
just
even
mean, I
sometimes
just
when
mean,
I'm
I
not
just mean
needed
in
for
the
something, I'm
cities
there. I
generally.
know we're holding
'cause
a great
I
meeting
haven't
tonight.
seen you
It's going to
aside
be
from
wonderful
that
and
Q&A the Truth
groundbreaking.
Minister did, right?
Thank you, though.
Well,
And
No,
I
thank
know
also
you
you.
where
can
we
say
where
is
we
I'm gonna
took him
bring
to a
back the
side
Roman
office
Empire.
and destroyed his little policy. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, when you
Where we
folded
made
and
him
to the
nullify it.
Chancellor
Oh,
immediately.
Yeah, you
We
walked
brought you
right
into an
down from the
office and you
Interior
immediately
Minister's office. I
folded.
don't know what you were doing in
I
there,
didn't
but
walk
it's
down from the
something.
Interior Minister's office.
You're
You
weeks
were
away, maybe. Who
no,
knows?
your little slug trail that
It's
we could
okay.
we could smell it from a mile away.
Thank
We
you.
found your little slug trail.
Gentlemen. Slug Trail is out of hand. That is
That's
out of
crazy.
hand. You cannot say things like that. Get those lights off. Get them off. All right, everyone say it with me. Turn off the lights.
Get those lights
Turn off
off.
the lights.
Get
Get
turn
those
off the
lights
lights.
off.
Those
All
lights are
right.
too bright.
Let's go ahead and skip a few people and go to my good friend Brownie Meister for him to ask the next question. He said, "LOL, let me ask a question." So I imagine he has something funny to say.
I'm excited. I
Brownie
am
Meister,
excited.
we're waiting. There we are. Welcome, Mr. Meister. Do you have a question you'd like to add? Mr. Meister? Well,
It's a sad day for Brownie.
unfortunate
Poor Brownie.
day for Mr. Meister.
Hello?
Oh, there you are. What's going on?
I think I broke my Discord making these gifts. Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But this is more so addressed kind of Niccolo, and I've made obviously I made my stance very, very clear. But can you please describe how your interior minister term had gone and what had happened near the end of it, and what you wish to do to differentiate from that 4-month long term where the interior was kind of being ransacked on all sides? I am curious to hear that, and I think everyone is kind of curious to see what's to change from this
Good question.
NHT term to the last one.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, the term starting out was very good. I think we had a lot of nice times. And I think throughout, even, at the end, I think people still enjoyed themselves. And that's at the end of the day what the whole point of the faction system is. People to go and fight each other and have fun. For us in the interior, it was, interior versus everybody every day. Where they would go and shoot our people and then we would go win against them in a court trial or something, whatever. Towards the end, notably, I became more absent as my schedule in the second semester of college became more important to me. But to differentiate from that to this, the role of interior minister and the role of that entire faction, as it has been for 6+ years, has been to be the instigator of everything and kind of have every faction against them. That's kind of the whole point of that entire thing being, the super powerful, elusive, we'll do whatever we want, get out of the way or die faction. And so, we fought everybody, we did whatever. But, as I became more absent, more of my generals got killed, it just became harder and harder to replace them. To differentiate from that, though, the role of chancellor and the role of the government, which I've done before, it's not going to be the first time, is to essentially become, as I say, I'm gonna say it again, the kind of third column right in the middle. You side with one side or the other based on
15
policy
seconds.
decisions and to make them, do different things to each other to make the things interesting, to make the different factions utilize the people they have and whatever capital they've built up with you or against each other. And so essentially for this position, it's not going to be so much fighting everybody all the time. It's going to be more, either backroom instigation or trying to get people, into different deals and stuff to make things work. Because at the end of the day, the whole point is to make the government work and to make it interesting and to make sure people are going to be there once you're gone. And I think there's an
Moderator,
absence of
may I
that right
ask
now.
a follow-up question?
Thank you.
It will be a quick one.
Yeah, sure.
You were speaking earlier regarding dogpiling, being one of the main issues that you might not have done well as Interior Minister. However, there is rumors that when you were Minister of the Interior, that you were working very, very closely with the Army to maintain your position. Are those rumors true? And if they are, can you please describe why you worked with the Army so
Who
frequently?
was Feld Marshal at the time,
Yeah,
Brownie?
I'll be
It was
honest. I don't know
Marshall.
who the field
It was
marshal
Marshall
was.
at the time.
It was Marshall.
Marshall? No, Marshall and I
Rittenhouse. You got a
didn't.
little alliance with him.
I don't
According
think
to
that.
him,
I don't think
anyway.
we did. I don't.
According to him, he did.
I don't think we did. I mean, if he's here,
Sorry,
he can
guys,
fact
another
check that. But
5 channel ranking
I don't think we
conference
had
call.
any discrete
Thank
for
you.
alliance.
Thank you,
Moderator.
Thank you, Brownie Meister. Aurelius the Phoenix had his hand up, and he was going to eventually be called. However, he DM'd me. I actually got a good question for the chancellors, Please make some time for me to ask it on the stage. Aurelius, you're getting your chance to ask it on stage, man. Here you go, dude.
What a respectful way to
All
ask
the
for a
pressure
question.
on
I'm
me.
just kidding. Don't DM me to ask for fucking time on the stage.
Get fucked.
Who did have a question though? Darkasar, come up on stage. Darkasar, you had a question
Yeah.
for some people. Dark, are you checking out now? Are you checking out, Dark? Dark,
he's
you had a
nervous.
question to ask?
Right, Doc.
All right,
Hello?
Dark. Hey, Dark, you had a question?
Yeah, what was my question?
I don't know. You said you had a question you wanted to ask.
No, I got no question. Can I stay up here though?
Nope. All right. Sorry about my dent head UA, everybody. Apologies. Butter the 50 cal. We're gonna do a few more
What's up,
audience
y'all?
questions.
Hey, man.
How y'all
What's
doing?
going up? What's going
Okay,
on?
so unlike what someone said about how people don't really care about war planning, I kind of actually got a little interested because of what someone said to me earlier. There's a high need for divisions and stuff. Like I just looked, I think there's 6 incapacitated infantry divisions within the here and 1 in the Marines. So because soldiers and whatnot are needed, my question is to both people, how are you going to raise money to fund these divisions as they're very expensive? And if that involves raising taxes, how are you going to make sure that people will keep their money if they have to pay extra tax for raising divisions?
Okay. I will take this because no one else talked. Yeah, this is one of the things that I was questioning earlier with this whole idea that we're just going to start lowering taxes now. If we need a bigger army and more divisions, how are we going to make up what's the stopgap to make up the money? And a lot of that will come down to essentially analyzing the budget, figuring out where things are needed and where they're not, and essentially having to make cuts, probably starting in the government on things before we start, just saying we're going to raise the taxes now. Because I don't honestly think we need a massive tax increase or anything. I think whatever we have now or whatever we had before could have worked if it was properly managed, which is no offense to the finance minister. It's not really on him. There's a lot of
It is on him.
bureaucrats above him.
He handles it.
But a lot of that stuff will come down to one, seeing what the logistical needs of the military and the VSK are, figuring out how the procurements ministry can, alleviate some of that issue with either changing how things are produced right now or producing new things, and making sure that all of our infrastructure is protected. All that stuff should alleviate in some capacity the strains of raising a bunch of new divisions that don't require us to just instantly raise money and say, well, look, we fixed the issue, especially after promising we're not going to do that.
Well, Mr. Gottingen?
Sure. So
20
we've had a look at
seconds.
the budget. Yeah, we've had a little look at the budget, and we have all the room to make these adjustments. We're about to completely take over Yugoslavia, which will give us a small but sizable influx of cash. It won't be as big as it was when we took Austria, but we'll have some from that. Soon, what will follow is the collapse of Bulgaria. Again, another bit of influx of money. That will replace the money that we are deducting from the tax. It won't come directly from the taxpayers' pockets. And soon we'll follow with Italy and France. So we'll be able to sustain the levels of investment that we've been managing all this time. But
Thank you.
when you look,
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. 50 Cal. Good question from a random audience member. Very, very rare that occurs. We'll let the new Minister of the Interior have a chance to ask the question. Beach.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question, right? Of course, I want to see interesting roleplay, and I want the best interest for my new faction. I think that's important. So, a question for both the candidates. How are you going to improve interesting roleplay? Not just by being a little snake, but actually stimulating something interesting for everyone to follow.
Storylines, things of that nature, like big overarching things that last
Yeah.
more than 24 hours.
Yeah, not like a civil war, that's just going to last like 3 hours. Like something interesting that we can work on.
I'll
that
take
everyone
this.
will have fun with.
Yeah, Major's obviously going to be going back to the Emperor character. He's going to be playing on that a lot more. We obviously started something not too long ago, which was the Federalist versus Imperialist mindset. Those Federalists who want the government empowered and more sovereign, compared to the Imperialists who want direct control from the crown, so on and so forth. That's the big thing about my character. I've always been a Federalist. I like to support the government and their independence. And that's the big storyline that I'll be pressing once again now that Major's back, properly role playing on Hendrik Bama when he does so. It's going to be an interesting twist. We already saw with the Pantheon attack, that was a massive twist that not a lot of people expected. I didn't even expect it to go that far. But, I mean, look what you can do when you're having fun. So that's the one big thing that I'm going to push, and obviously the war. So, yeah, hope that answers your question nicely, Peach.
Okay. Lindau?
Yeah, on this, I think, I said something pretty similar to this earlier, but a lot of that stuff will come down to essentially making sure that everybody, in the government itself and the other factions have either a method or the infrastructure to be able to do things on their own, to make their own little plot lines and whatnot. Because it's great to say, I have this great plot line to go overthrow the monarchy, whatever. But once that person is gone, all that stuff is lost. Then you have no one who's just going to suddenly go, I've been this person's protege. I'm now going to go take over the mantle of obstructing the monarchy. That doesn't really exist right now. And a lot of the long term things that have to happen, or these long term, drawn out conflicts, come from making sure that people are around who are both good and have been kind of ingrained in how things work. And so a big focus of this campaign is going to be training those new people and making sure that people who want to do stuff like that are given the opportunity to, instead of the, revolving door, same people, same things. Because I think those people exist, even after however many years it's been. I think those people exist.
Okay. Is that both of you? Yeah?
It is, yeah.
Okay. I won't push it. I'm happy with that. Very interesting. Very interesting candidates. Very interesting.
Yeah, go Beach.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
No worries.
We're gonna do one more question. Israel would drone strike me if I did not accept this person. So Zephyr Tempest, Prometheus's designated Mossad agent,
Thank
is
you.
up
Thank
on
you. I do
stage.
appreciate it. I do appreciate it, Horson. Well, I do have a question for both candidates. So my main question is, when whoever gets elected, are you going to revise the constitution and make a new one, either more imperialist or more federalist? Would be my.
I mean, I'll take this. We had actually had a chat about this, I think, Zephyr, a while
Yes.
ago. You brought that idea to me, and we debated it. And I think that's something that could be very healthy if we pushed a new sort of constitution through. Not massive, as I think we had the idea of a nice, slimmed down but proper one. Instead of was it to replace the 1871 constitution?
Yes.
I think that's the idea that we had, and I really like that idea. And that was something that after this election I was going to push quite heavily for. It was just waiting for the stars to align for you to return from the little absence that you had, and so we could get that done.
Yeah, apologies. I had to bomb more children.
No issue.
Yeah, well, congratulations on, all the dead people, Zephyr. I appreciate the videos you sent.
He's winning.
As always. I think the Constitution needs to be revised to reflect the Crown mandate, but I won't be doing anything that's going to be limiting the monarchy. Because again, I think it's imperative to remember that we're not the socialists, we're not the English, we're the Germans. And the whole point of Germany is that it's an empire. It's
Can I
not.
ask you a question?
It's not a
Nicola?
pseudo.
Did you know that the Chancellor had to co-sign every decree or law issued by the Emperor?
I do. I am aware of that. I'm
Yeah,
aware of a
so
lot of
it's
things that are
to
in
say
there
that
that
it's
don't
not
reflect
like
the language
England
of
isn't
what we use now.
inherently true, right? It was a constitutional monarchy after the revolutions that took place in Germany. So that's not. I mean, what you're trying to say isn't exactly true. Let's get that straight.
Okay, thank you for
Don't
that.
get me
That
wrong.
nitpicking of
It
the
is
policy.
vastly
Thank you,
different
though.
from England
Thank
and
you.
everything else. But
No, I don't think we need to become England. I think having a strong monarchy is a good thing. I think it's a good thing to push for, and I think it's a good thing to keep kind of at the back of our minds, especially if we're going to now have an emperor who's becoming, increasingly more not, I don't know, erratic but more, involved in how things are running. I think it's not a bad thing. I think it's not a bad thing at all. I don't think we need to be England. I don't think that's true.
Well, I think what we've had here are two polar opposite candidates, very opposing sides on almost every single issue presented. Our very own Virus, aka Jean Pierre, will be releasing an exit poll after this debate so we can see how people are feeling. This should give the candidates, hopefully, opportunity to up their game following the election. Voting, Virus, when did you want to start voting? Voting, Virus?
Hello? Yeah, we can start voting right now.
Were you going to start the voting in game after the
Yeah.
debate?
Yep.
You going to set it up?
You got it. I don't want to pull a Eric.
You don't know how. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. So I will go set up the votes. However, before I do so, I have one final question for both candidates. Say one nice thing about each other. Mr. Gottingen.
He is extremely intelligent. He is probably I mean, I've known Niccolo for a long time. He has every single time been one of the hardest people to fight, in my opinion, because of how smart he is. So that's one nice thing to say, I think.
All right. Oh, yeah. You know, General George and I have been around this game mode many years. He was the first field marshal I ever shot. And I think he's very, very persistent. I think when he sets his mind to something, he will do it. And I think that's a very admirable trait.
Wow. What wonderful things to hear from two polar opposite candidates. Wow. Who else is so impressed with these two guys? Can we just get, wow, round of applause for these two men? So fantastic, so great. Really, really impressive. And you can't forget their vice chancellors. We might have a vice chancellor debate next time too. We might do a little in-game vice chancellor debate and then do the chancellor debate in the Discord. That might be fun. So we'll see how it goes. I know you did a one in game, but actually official one that's not incredibly boring. So that was interesting. That was good. That is it though, guys. Voting will start very, very soon. I'm loading in now to get that all set up for everybody, and then that will be that. Voting will last until probably Tuesday at midnight. So we'll have the remainder of today, all of Monday, all of Tuesday. And so about Tuesday at midnight, might be a little earlier, just if I want to go to bed earlier, unless it's super duper close, then I'll let it run all the way through till midnight. Otherwise, I might close it just a tad early so I can go to bed on Tuesday. But that is that. Everybody, been a pleasure for the third Imperial Germany Chancellor debate. The terms, we're now officially doing this. Terms will be 60-day terms. So for the next 60 days, they will be elected to Chancellor. I think after the vote is won, we'll do like a week transitionary period where it's the Chancellor elect and the Chancellor. I think that'll be fun. So it might cause for some extra drama. So whoever wins the election is not immediately Chancellor. They have to get there. The Chancellor elect. So it'll be a little bit interesting. But that is that. Everyone have a good evening. Make sure you get in game to vote. I am setting that up now. So get in game to vote and make sure your Chancellor wins. Ta-ta, everybody, and farewell.